Rod. Welcome to Three Questions with. Got my buddy Rod with us from Merrimack Valley Wi-Fi Pro. Good afternoon, Rod. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for having me on again.
So, Rod, I asked you to come on because it seems like this is the time of year a lot of people are moving. So, new home, new apartment, that's an opportunity to reconfigure, think about Wi-Fi, your internet provider. That makes sense?
It makes a lot of sense. It's a great time to do it because it's a great time for you to start saving some big money and keep that start right from the get-go in your new home. When you move into a new home, you're now a new customer for either Comcast, Fios, Spectrum, whoever it is. You're a new customer, right? New address, new customer. You're eligible for their new rates. And so their new customer rates, and those rates are great. And so it's worth considering doing that. And if you do that for their internet service, you can get a great internet service for like 50 to 60 bucks a month as a new customer. And then, if you go with a streaming TV service for like 70 bucks a month and get a great service for 70 bucks a month, you're looking at 120 to 130 bucks a month for your internet and TV service. And if you don't need that landline, you can drop it. And if you still want the landline, well, you could also go with a VoIP solution that would be like 10 bucks a month. So 120 to 140 kind of range for your, cable, internet, and phone for your new home is a pretty good deal. Put that extra money towards your mortgage payment.
It is interesting, like you said, the opportunities that you get. And it's funny because we all joke about it. You get that special offer from whomever, and it comes with a landline. Rod, I have one. For $1 million, what's your phone number, Cal? I don't know. I was like, I don't need that. They're like, but sir, it's just part of the package. Just so
part of your triple play bundle.
And I'm like, okay, if that's what's going to get me that super low rate, and I now have a home phone number, okay, that's good and stuff. But again, when we move, that kind of changes our Wi-Fi too, though, right? It's not as simple as, okay, I'm leaving now. I'm just going to pull the router out of the house, go and just slap it in my new house and live happily ever after. Probably not going to work that easy, right?
Probably not. If you're moving up in a new home, it's unlikely the solution you had in your old home is going to work. And for most people, the Wi-Fi hasn't worked great in their old home anyway. So if you're going to move into a new home, it's really time to think about, I want my Wi-Fi to work just awesome throughout my whole house. And it's the system you had is unlikely to, because it's a new house. The walls are in different places. The floors are different. You might have a fireplace in a different place, or maybe you're stepping up your home and you got radiant floor heat somewhere. That causes some big problems. So there are lots of things that can go wrong with just redeploying your old Wi-Fi system into your new home, and you'll just be frustrated again. And so it's time to really, as long as you're moving a new home, it's time to really think about, well, I just want it to work everywhere in my home, and how can I make that happen? And that's what we can help you do, right? Go to your new home. We could basically set you up from put a modem in instead of a gateway that you own. You pay 200 bucks for that piece of equipment, and you never have to rent it again for the rest of your life. You're paying 15 bucks a month for a piece of equipment every month. 10 months, 12 months time, you're going to be pretty close to breaking even on that. And then put in a mesh Wi-Fi system that covers your whole home and works phenomenal everywhere. Then kids aren't complaining, your wife's not complaining, your grandparents, your parents, when they come over, aren't complaining. Everybody's happy with how it all works.
But now when I move to the new house, do I have to give some consideration as to where I set up my router? Is that going to have an impact on performance?
Yeah, it makes it's also a time to make sure you put it in the right spot. The way those things work, and I've explained this, I think, before, right? If a router covers 2,000 square feet, that's a radius of 25 feet. So if you put it on one end of your house, it'll do a decent job if there aren't any walls in the way for 25 feet out. If there are star walls and furniture and refrigerators and other things, it gets shrunken down to more like it does a good job 15 to 20 feet out. Okay. And then so the rest of your house might not have great service. So you really want, I mean, the ideal place is to have it suspended in air in the very center of your house. That would be awesome. You might bump your head on it a few times as you're walking by. But instead of that, you could find a place near the center of your house and mount it and then have it set up there. And that'll cover a good range. Probably not your whole house if it's a bigger house. If you're over 2,000 square feet, a single router is not likely to do it. If you're under 1,500 square feet, single router is going to do it. Put it in the center of your house, you'll be good.
How do I know as just a regular person where to put it though, Rod? Is it trial and error?
It's trial and error, right? So if I'm going to set up a mesh system in your home, what I do is I take Wi-Fi readings throughout your entire home and I see where all the problems are. And then based on that, I generate a heat map that tells me all the stuff about signal strength and performance and noise level and all that kind of stuff. And then I can tell, okay, where do I need to put the next device? So I put the main router in. Where do I need to put the next device in order to expand that coverage? And if you think about it, if you're doing it trial and error, you can get it right. You just might have to spend a couple of months of being frustrated until finally it's like, oh, now it works. Or you can have someone like me do it. We'll figure it out first time right away. But really, think about it. A router has a sphere. It generates a signal in a sphere. The sphere gets dented by walls and all those kinds of things, but it's still sort of a sphere. And if you want to have a mesh router that works with it, those two spheres got to overlap substantially in order for them to have a good, solid connection. And so, and you need the right kind of router. Dual band routers don't do well. You need tri-band routers, and there's a lot of things. You need Wi-Fi 6 if you're going to have a new system. There are a lot of things to take into consideration. And if you're confident with all the technology, you can just do it yourself. Just, get the router in the center of the home and figure out where to place it. But if you're not really confident with the technology, you're just going to get frustrated, and you may eventually find the right solution that works, but you're going to spend a lot of time moving stuff around, trying it here, trying it there. And I eliminate that frustration.
I've tried that. It's not a fun approach, that's for sure. Hey, I want to go back to something you said, because we covered it, but a little quickly. Modem. The average person doesn't know you can go out and buy your own modem. Like you said, you look at it like, oh, I'll get it from Comcast. But then when you're like, hey, $15 a month when I could buy it for maybe $200. But one of the concerns people have, Rod, if I'm having a problem, Comcast is going to blame the modem. Well, because you bought your own modem. How do I deal with that if I'm having that problem? Like, well, it's always that modem you bought.
Yeah. So what I think is a really good strategy for that is you get Comcast to put their Xfinity gateway. That gateway is it's a modem, a router, and a Wi-Fi access point. All three things combined together. Okay. And so they put that in. The modem part translates from the incoming cable network in your house into either the Wi-Fi or the Ethernet network within your house on the other side. It makes that translation. Just like if you had a modem in the old days connected to your computer, it translates between what your computer speaks and what the telephone network speaks. In this case, it's what your router speaks and what the cable network speaks. So that's what the modem does. And then the router just makes sure the packets all go to the right place. And Wi-Fi provides Wi-Fi. So the Comcast gateway has all three together. And so you get that installed right from the get-go, and everything's working great. Okay, now you know that there's no problem coming into your home with the cable or anything like that. Once you know that, you can then say, okay, I'm going to go buy my own modem and Wi-Fi router. Okay, that's what you need. You buy your own modem and router. The modem is $150. The Wi-Fi system can be, can range from $200 to $900, depending on how big and what your house needs.
Yep.
Right? You buy those and you have that yourself, and you never have to pay for that. You never have to pay rental fees or anything on that again. And if it's the right kind of Wi-Fi system that's set up in your house, you'll have a phenomenal Wi-Fi everywhere, and everyone will be happy.
But now I got one more question. I know we went over 3 today, but I got one more. To me, it makes sense to have you come out and check out everyone's system, because sometimes we just don't know about it. It's like, well, yeah, it's a little slow in this room, or I guess you just learn to live with it, Rod. Like, oh, if I'm doing something, I got to go sit on the couch in this room. I know not to do that in that room. Or just, like you said, you're like, well, if I'm on a Zoom call, I ask my wife not to watch Netflix.
Yeah.
You just make adjustments, but you shouldn't be having to make those adjustments.
No.
You can evaluate the system and go, hey, this is where we could be going. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I had this exact problem this morning. I had a customer this morning. He's got a Comcast Xfinity Gate. He's had it replaced 3 times. If you're upstairs in his house, the speed ranges from 10 megabits to 250 megabits. And it's like not just one floor up. It's like, and most of the time it's around 10 megabits. And he's like, if you go downstairs in the basement, it's maybe like 200 or 300 megabits. Well, I'm like, what the heck? And my phone sometimes work better than my computer. And I'm like, oh, this is really odd. I don't really see this kind of thing happen that often. I see just bad signal through most of the house, and I can adjust that. So for this customer, I went, he's like, I don't know what's going on. And so I did a whole bunch of testing, and, the problem was literally the Comcast gateway was just faulty. Right. And so it just wasn't behaving properly. I have a MacBook Pro that's got the Wi-Fi 6 chipset in it. It's high end, right? If I'm standing next to the router and I test the speed out, I'll get close to a gigabit over Wi-Fi. No problem. Yeah. In his house, I'm getting 50 megabits. And I'm like, how can this possibly be? So, but what if I plug in directly to the router, I get 929 megabits. So what I did was I just put in one single router that I deploy. I hardwired it to his router, and then I let my new router do the Wi-Fi. Boom, the whole house, hundreds of megabits everywhere in his whole house. It just worked great. So it really pointed to, in this particular, it's not usually a problem with this device, but in this case, it was a problem with that particular device. And I figure that out. I'll figure out if it's the problem with the device, or if it's just you don't have enough Wi-Fi power to cover your whole house. Really, what you should get are, I would say, 200. If you got a gigabit service, you should be getting 250 plus everywhere in your house. If you're getting 250 megabits, your wife watching Netflix at 8K resolution isn't going to do anything to your Zoom session. It's going to work flawlessly. And so, what I do is figure out how to get you great Wi-Fi everywhere in your home. And when I come in, I do a survey beforehand, and you see sometimes the signal strength is great everywhere, but the performance stinks because they got pods everywhere, and it all sounds good. And then I put in a new system, and now they got great signal everywhere, and they got great performance everywhere. And it's really a stark difference. And so many of my customers are so happy about it. It's like, oh, everything just works now. And it really should work that way. Most people, like you said, they settle, okay, I guess it just works this way. It doesn't just work that way. It works that way when it's set up poorly. And that's what we can fix.
It's a great way to end the segment. Rod, what's your contact information? How can people reach out to you? How can they learn more, my friend?
So you can always reach us on our website at www.mvwifipros.com. You can schedule an appointment there. You can make a phone call from there. You can send us an email. You can rate our services there, or you can call us at 978-577-5884. It's always a no-cost consultation on the phone. You call me, I'll, spend 15-30 minutes with you figuring out what we think's going on and what we might be able to do for you. Doesn't cost you anything. You get good information, and from there, if you're interested, we'll set up an appointment.
Rod, I appreciate you a couple minutes how you did to come on the show, and as always, thanks for being my friend.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.